There's much to admire about the French, like their very fast trains, their willingness to stand up to the government and go on strike, and indeed their very tasty baguettes. But we never seem to admire their cars. According to Citroen, 75% of you don't want this car because you're happy in a BMW, Mercedes or Audi. The other 25% won't buy it, also according to Citroen, because you're happy in a Jaguar, Volvo or Saab, which leaves, and I've done the maths here, precisely no % of you that's going to buy this, the new C6.
They could easily have made a car that has mass appeal, but instead they preferred to build something that doesn't. This, of course, is a very French way of going about things. Being individual is more important than being popular.
So, given that none of you are actually going to buy this car, it makes it rather an important thing to test, because you need to find out what you're missing out on.
The first thing you'll never benefit from is the absolutely brilliant styling. Now, most saloons are made up of 3 boxes, but this one is one giant swoosh. Where else do you see side windows that actually touch the rear lights?
Even the number plate has been mounted as low as possible so as not to upset the lines. The long wheelbase means there's loads of space inside where everything has a classy, high-quality feel.
This car looks interesting, imposing and presidential. You can't really say that about a 5 Series now, can you?
Then we come to the way it drives. This twin-turbo V6 diesel is very smooth, but again, Citroen admit that this isn't really for people interested in performance engineering.
In fact, it encourages you to drive in a whole new radical way. Slowly. It's got speed-sensitive steering, which, as far as I can work out, just means it gets worse the faster you go. They've spent a lot of time soundproofing in here, and the gear changes are silky smooth, so that it's actually very relaxing. You find yourself wanting to make journeys just that little bit longer, so that you get to spend more time in here.
And the more time you spend in the car, the more time you get to spend with all the gadgets. Or not, as the case may be, given that we've already established that none of you will be buying this car. None of you will ever benefit from the optional head-up display, which apparently shaves half a second off your reaction time because you don't have to refocus on the dashboard.
Nor will any of you be able to plug in a video camera and watch the picture being displayed on the dashboard monitor. They've tuned the climate control so that it's, and I'm quoting here, like a blanket of air within the cabin. And you can also push your SIM card into the dash and the C6 will read back your text messages. Oh.
Get back to work, you lazy b****.
There's also Citroen's optional lane departure warning system, which vibrates your seat if you cross over a white line without indicating above 50 miles an hour. There you go, my bottom is vibrating all over the place. Now, I sort of thought this was a bit of a gimmick, but if you're cruising home just that little bit too tired, it's a safety net worth having.
Of course, by not buying this car, you'll cleverly avoid some of the niggles. Like the cigarette lighter that's impossible to pull out. And the convex rear glass may give you more access to the boot, but at night it reflects the third brake light, thus obscuring the rear view mirror. The big feature Citroen push with this car is its magic carpet ride quality. The self-leveling hydractive suspension does without springs, using gas and hydraulic fluid instead. And frankly, there's only one way to test if it's any good. It's 1962. President Charles de Gaulle is in the sights of a sniper. The sniper misses, hitting the tyres of President's Citroen DS instead. But the self-leveling suspension meant the President could make good his escape over the cobbled streets of Paris. Hooray for life-saving suspension!
To find out if the C6's suspension is as good as that of the legendary DS, I have myself some gunmen And a highly trained chauffeur.
Ah, of course, Tiff, a driving god. If there's one man I'd entrust the safety of me and my hat to, it's him.
Thank you. Now, once in here, I can adjust these seats in order to get myself some more legroom. I simply press this button and I can stretch out. I can also recline the rear seats with this button here because they're based on those of the French high-speed train, the TGV. I'm obviously going to be charging around on important French presidential business, probably involving truckers or blockades or something, while Tiff chauffeurs me around, hopefully avoiding assassins. Ah, Tiff, it has been a long day being the president.
The gunmen are lurking somewhere in this French-ish village. They'll try to assassinate me, and because I've read the script, I know they'll miss and puncture our tyre. We'll then see if the C6 can keep on driving and help us escape, or whether it'll spin out of control and throw me into the hands of the bloodthirsty assassins.
It's detected a punctured tyre.
A sensor above each wheel makes sure the right height is constantly maintained, and so far things were holding up.
I think we can make it. It's a bit iffy.
Not a bit of a rim though, mon Dieu!
It's still corners.
I've driven plenty of cars in the past with flat tyres, and hard cornering can make them spin. But the C6 felt pretty secure. I wouldn't recommend going far like this, but it certainly felt more controllable than I expected.
Perhaps the most compelling case to buy a C6 is not about the suspension, but about price. The top-of-the-range model cost £38,000, about £7 less than the equivalent spec 5 Series. Unfortunately, big Citroens have a reputation for depreciation, but as a second-hand proposition in a couple of years' time, this will be great. Cheap, exclusive, and a potential lifesaver.
Right, Tiff. Oh, that's a good idea.